I have been raising my own backyard hens for well over a decade, and my family just loves the fresh eggs. And I've noticed a lot of people now are talking about buying chicks and raising their own backyard hens so they can have eggs due to the scarcity in the supermarket or the very, very high prices. So this video is for you if you're considering it. Now, if you are considering this just a way to have cheaper eggs, I say, maybe not. And let me tell you why. Let's start with cost. Now, baby chicks cost between $3 and $5 if you get them at your local Tractor Supply or feed store. But if you were buying a hen ready to lay, that could be anywhere from $20 to $50 on up. But that's just the beginning of the cost. And I must caution, remember, if you're getting those adorable little chicks, well, it can take 6 to 8 months until they actually produce eggs. So you've made your investment, but you aren't getting anything out of it for, well, in my case, I usually do the more fancier breeds, so it's usually 8 months before they start laying. So during that time, you've got to feed them, water them, and clean their coop. All for 6 or 8 months until you get your first egg. Now when you bring those chicks home, you need to have a setup, but it doesn't have to be expensive. I have a video here that shows you how I made my own homemade brooder. And you need a special food dish, water dish, and a light because they have to be kept warm at a certain temperature. But that really is a negligible cost. But those cute little chicks grow amazingly fast. And if you live like I do in Michigan, you have to be careful. You can't put them outside right when they're at the, what I call the teenage stage. You have to wait until the temperatures are warm enough. And believe me, I've had them in various setups in our bedroom for some time, and it could get a bit messy and a bit noisy. So something to consider. But when it's time to bring them outside, you need a chicken coop. And that can range in cost from, well, generally like $300 to well over $1,000. It really depends on the size of your flock and if you're able to get a used coop or not. So that substantially is raising the price of those eggs that you are waiting for. Now, of course, you're going to need chicken water, feeder, and feed and bedding, which can, the feed and bedding add anywhere from $20 on up per month cost. So your cost per egg will decrease over time because of your substantial initial investment. But they figure that a dozen of home-raised eggs can cost as little as 96 cents to as much as over $4 a dozen. So it isn't necessarily you're going to have cheaper eggs. And remember, in that cost, I'm not considering your labor cost for feeding and watering them every day and cleaning the coop. And again, you make this investment in those little chicks, right? Because high egg prices. But considering that you might have to wait 6 or 8 months until you get your first egg, by that time, egg prices may have dropped. So you won't be further ahead, you might be further behind. But let's talk about some of the other cons. I think time commitment is definitely something to discuss. Every day you have to water and feed them, maybe put them inside, outside, and it means that if you go on vacation, you have to get someone to do that for you. And you have to be careful about predators. I used to have free-ranging hens when I was out in the garden. I'd leave them out and they were out and about in the yard. But it's quick. I mean, it was amazingly quick. A family of foxes came in and grabbed 4 of them and ran off in different directions. It was very tactical with them. And there wasn't anything I could do. And my poor, beautiful, silky rooster lost his life trying to defend those hens. So we had to spend some more money. We had to build a chicken run. So our chickens are kept inside in that run at all times. And a lot of things like the taste of chicken. It could be your neighbor's dog or your own dog. Foxes, raccoons, weasels even. And of course, chicken hawks. I mean, yeah, coyotes. A lot of things want chicken for dinner. Health issues. Well, one of the reasons, right, egg prices are higher is because of that avian flu. And if you free range your chickens, or maybe even if you keep them in a run, your chickens could also get that flu and you would have to cull, in other words, kill your entire flock. And chickens can get parasites and other diseases. So you might have some health expenses. Now, of course, before you do anything, before you buy those chicks, make sure there's not legal restrictions in the neighborhood you live in, because some neighborhoods do not allow backyard chickens. Something else to consider. Did you know that your backyard chickens may not produce any eggs in December or January, part of February? Anyway, in the north where I live, because of the short days, they need a certain amount of daylight. So you could put in a light at night to keep that daylight optimum so they'll still lay. But do remember, a laying hen is born with all the eggs they're going to have. So yes, you might get them sooner, but eventually they'll run out sooner. And my chickens do that. And of course, it's right when I have holiday baking, when I could really use those eggs. Noise. I live a bit in the country, so having a rooster crow doesn't really disturb many people. I hear other roosters. We no longer have a rooster. You do not need a rooster for your hens to get eggs. So here's my beautiful hen sitting on the eggs. She could sit on them as long as she wants because they won't hatch, because they're not fertilized. But remember, again, neighbors might not like being woke up at sunrise every morning to your crowing rooster. And it can be, yeah, smelly, okay? Especially if the area would get wet. Chickens produce a lot of poo and it smells. And so you have to continually keep it cleaned. And in the summer, when it's really hot, there is an odor around the coop. Oh, and talking about the coop, cleaning it is a smelly, can't say that, a smelly mess, okay? It's not something I look forward to. In fact, it's my least favorite task. We do deep cleaning in the chicken run, and it is a lot of bedding and poo to clean up. And it is not pleasant. Something to keep in mind. Another thing to consider, when you get backyard chickens, they might become almost like pets to your family. So as they age, and chickens can live 5 to 10 years, well, as they get older, they don't produce as many eggs, and eventually, hear her, they don't produce eggs at all. So what are you going to end up with? You're going to have a hen nursing home because your kids are going to say, Mom, you can't kill that chicken. And you're still going to be feeding it and taking care of it. So it is something to remember. So my bottom line is, if you just want cheap eggs, think again. They may not be as inexpensive as you think. But if you want organic, home-laid eggs with rich, tasty yolks, well then it might be worth, even if there's an extra cost or extra time, to have backyard chickens. I mean, just look at these yolks. Doesn't that look yummy? I'm not a big egg eater, but my husband and my kids just love my home-raised eggs. They swear they're the tastiest ever. Now, if you are lucky enough to be able to live in a neighborhood where you can let your chickens roam free, they are great at getting pests out of your yard. So they can help you keep your yard more pest-free. And remember that poo I was talking about? Well, there's a lot of it. And the good news is it's also a natural fertilizer for you gardeners. But you do have to compost it for 6 months, as opposed to my rabbit poo I can put directly in my garden. But there is a benefit of all that chicken poo. Now there are also educational opportunities. Maybe chicken care is given as a responsibility to your children. It's great for them to learn, and it's a great gateway animal into your local 4-H program, which I can't encourage you enough to let your kids experience. Now to me, the #1 reason for raising backyard chickens is not cheaper eggs. And it's not even great tasting, beautiful yolk eggs. It is self-sufficiency. I like knowing where my food comes from and what I feed that animal that produces that food. So for me, it is self-sufficiency. So think carefully before you go to the store and see those adorable little chicks. They are so cute. But review this for the cost and the time it can take, and decide if having your own backyard chickens, your hen layers, is really for you. Just don't do it for the wrong reason. But if you decided it is for you, watch this playlist.